Job versus entrepreneurship for millennials. If you're watching this, there are probably two major possibilities. You are either someone who already knows you want to start a business, but you're not sure if you should take the leap, or you're someone who is not very satisfied at your current job position and you're wondering if maybe, just maybe, entrepreneurship might be that real thing for you. Either way, by the end of this video, you will have 5 powerful steps you can take to figure out if starting a business is the right thing for you. Before we start, remember that if you want to find and nurture your ideal occupation or business niche, subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell so you know whenever a new video comes out. Also, remember to smash that like button below. Step number 1. Find out the type of work culture that you like to work in. This is very important because at the end of the day, if you are in a work culture that doesn't make you feel good, that doesn't make you feel productive, this is not gonna, you're not gonna be able to succeed at whatever it is that you're doing. So the things that are important to see are, there are 3 major things that I'm gonna mention soon, but something important as well is, before we go into that many people, the saying goes, they join a company but they leave a boss. So oftentimes you could be at the right company but not necessarily in the right division or the right group of people. I know that in the past, in my own experience, I was at a division that was really good. I loved the people there, but in the same department there were other divisions that were not so good. I had friends there who they basically left. There was a division chief there, or someone who was a boss, who had like 4 people leave him within like a year of having started their positions there for different reasons, but at the end of the day, they all had to do with the boss themselves. This is important because your direct supervisor is going to be someone you're going to be working with day to day, so this is something that you got to figure out. If you currently are thinking into starting a business because you don't feel good about the way you're treated or the people you're working with, especially your direct supervisor, then that's something that you can potentially change in a different way, not necessarily having to start a business. So, what other things do we have to see when it comes to culture? Well, the first thing is, how much are you required to be an extrovert versus an introvert? And this is important because if you feel like there is a mismatch of what is demanded of you versus your natural inclinations, this is going to be something that's going to make you very tired. For example, if you are in sales, let's say you're in sales going home to home, or you have to meet people in person, or you have to do some public speaking or some presentations every once in a while, and you really dread these, not so much because you're not very skilled at it, you can do it, but because you really feel very tired afterwards, and this is something that it's demanded of you on a very frequent basis. Similarly, maybe you are an extrovert and you are working as a writer of sorts, and you like writing but you don't like being in a company in which there is this dead silence for all 8 to 10 hours that you are in the office. That's gonna be that's gonna drive you crazy. So if this is something that you're thinking about, you're probably gonna wonder, okay, so what do I do? Well, you can potentially just find another occupation or a position that can help you. Okay, but wait, this video is about entrepreneurship, right? Well, if you are starting a business, most of the time, if you're the business owner and you're doing it, you're going at it, you're probably not gonna have enough cash coming in to warrant hiring an employee. Therefore, when it comes to that, you're probably gonna have to be more extroverted, I will say. This is not to mean that introverts cannot do it. You definitely can, 100%, 200%. But if you have to start communicating with people, and you will, when it comes to marketing and sales of your business, you cannot be shy, because at the end of the day, the person who needs to be the biggest and first salesperson of your business is yourself, the business owner. So, what other aspect of culture do we need to keep into account? The second aspect of culture is actually collaboration, and that has to do also with what I was mentioning before. If you are a business owner or you became an entrepreneur, especially at the start, if you don't have the resources to hire someone or get some collaborators in, you're probably going to be by yourself for a long period of time. You're going to be working at it, doing all the tasks that you must do. So if this is something that you are not good with, and you need to have people around you, you like to collaborate, then it will actually depend on the business. But most of the time, if you are starting as a solopreneur, that means that that's going to be a somewhat lonely path at least for the first few years potentially. So that's something to consider as well. Also, if you are currently in a job in which you are collaborating too much and you don't like all that collaboration, you can change that. The last important aspect of culture that we want to consider is whether or not you want to be in an environment in which you have a lot of structure or an environment in which you will have to innovate a lot. For example, if you become an entrepreneur or you start your own business, chances are that every single day you will have to either fix something that got broke, or solve a new problem that you didn't have before, or try to improve something that you've gotten feedback on and that you need to improve, or you just want to make your service or offering better, or your marketing to reach more people. In order to do those things, you will have to get out of your comfort zone, you will have to think for yourself, and you will have to look for ways to actually do those new things that you didn't know how to do, which means that you will have to be innovating in a certain way most of the time, almost every single day. If that's something that scares you or something that you just don't like, you don't like change that much, you prefer to have something that's very structured, then you can go into jobs that have that kind of structure. There are obviously other jobs that are more creative in nature and don't have as much of a structure and require you to be considerably more innovative. But if you're going into entrepreneurship, chances are you will have to be more innovative than not. Innovative or innovative? All right. So the second step is actually figuring out the tasks, the actual work that you enjoy doing the most. So this is important because at the end of the day, if you're not doing something that you enjoy, that's gonna really eat away at you. And a good way to actually go about this is, if you are currently in a job, which most of you probably are, go in and make a list of every single task that you do. Every single one. It doesn't matter how menial, how small, even if you create some coffee or you chat with someone. What is it that you do in a week, right? Every week, every day. Then make a big list of that, and then what you want to do is you want to, next to each task on the list, you want to put the percentage of your time that is devoted to that particular task. So, for example, maybe you go to meetings and you say, oh man, I'm spending like 10% of my time on meetings per week, right? The more accurate you are with this, the better, because it's gonna give you an idea of like, whoa, I hadn't thought about it, but I'm spending too much time on meetings, or I am spending too much time dealing with a database, or I am spending too much time dealing with clients that are not high value clients, for example, right? So once you do that, once you have every single task and you have the amount of time you're spending on each of them, what you want to do is right next to each task, you have to put either yes or no. And what do I mean by yes or no? I mean, this particular thing that you're doing, would you do it if you weren't being paid for it? If the answer is no, then that's something that you want to do less of. If the answer is yes, then that's something that you want to do more of, okay? So that's a big thing that you're gonna have to, that's gonna help you figure out, okay, like, you know, I don't like spending so much time with databases, but I like spending time with clients or with people who come in and having meetings and organizing those meetings. If that's the case, then that's closer to your zone of genius, as some people like to call it. And that means that you will be better off putting more of your time into those tasks that you actually enjoy. You'll likely be able to excel at them relative to your peers, and you're gonna be able to gain some recognition that way and feel more fulfilled and happier with yourself. Not necessarily starting a business if you have to. Now, if you become an entrepreneur, again, in most cases, if you're starting as a solopreneur, you're gonna have to do everything by yourself. So you don't really get to pick like, oh, I like to do this, I don't like to do this, unless you have some income on the side and you want to delegate that task or outsource it to someone else. But at the end of the day, the buck ends with you or stops with you. So you're gonna have to actually make sure that you're jumping into something that you like to do. And we're gonna get into that next, and that is step 3. Figure out if the industry you're in is actually something you enjoy. So for example, you're not gonna start a business on something you don't enjoy. If you're trying to do that, that's probably gonna fail, because businesses usually require so much time and effort put into them, especially at the beginning, for them to gain some traction. that if you don't enjoy what you're doing, it's very unlikely that you're going to keep up when the obstacles come around. So it's best to figure out the industry. Even if you're in a job, for example, if you are, I don't know, maybe you are in marketing and you don't really like all this creative stuff and these people are coming up with these ads and it's kind of like, oh, I have no creativity, I don't like this stuff, I'd rather deal with numbers. Maybe you will prefer to be in operations or in the finance department, and that's something that you could potentially do. Or more than just the function within the industry, you will prefer the industry itself. Maybe you are in the industry of industrials. Maybe you are dealing with manufacturing, and it's okay, but you don't really enjoy it that much. You're more passionate about technology, and you would like to go, I don't know, maybe go to Silicon Valley or to some other technological hub where you can actually take a tech job. Maybe, I don't know, maybe not as a coder, but perhaps just being in the industry itself, even if it's doing the same task that you're currently doing, is going to make you considerably more fulfilled. For example, you could be a marketing person at a manufacturing plant or a waste management plant, and you're okay with marketing, but you're not really that enthusiastic about the topic matter, right? But you could potentially just move, and let's say that, again, the same example, you like technology, you move into a tech company and you do marketing, you're doing the same thing, but you're doing it in an industry that you actually like, and that's gonna really pump you up and make you considerably more interested in the nuances of the function that you're doing within that industry that you are passionate about, and that's gonna really help you out. Similarly, if you go and as you start a business or you do something along those lines, yes, you're gonna have to do everything at the beginning to a certain extent, but you want to do it in an industry that you're actually very passionate about, and hopefully you have some level of credentials or skill sets or prior knowledge. If it's a passion of yours, you likely have a lot of knowledge about it anyways, and that's going to help you out scale from the very beginning. Not scaling in the amount of customers necessarily, but scaling in the amount of traction that you start getting. Alright, so comment below if all of this makes sense so far. Alright, so you figured out the kind of culture that you like to work in, whether or not that's something that will work for you if you become an entrepreneur. You figured out, okay, what's the kind of industry and what are the types of tasks that you would like to do. And you're getting a better idea now for like, okay, like based on what we've said so far, I think I could start a business or not, regardless. A good question to ask is step 4, and that is figure out what do you have to work with right now. Okay, so a good major reason for why many businesses fail is because the people who start them, we tend to have no idea of what we're doing, right? And I'm including myself because I've done it in the past as well. So the first question you need to answer is, where am I going to get my customers from, right? Where are they going to come from? If you cannot answer that question in a way that's like, okay, I'm gonna get my customers from this place, but is that going to be sustainable over time? If you can't answer where you're going to get customers sustainably over time, where you're gonna get them from, then don't start a business. You have no idea what you're doing. A good way to do this, for example, is, and people tend to underestimate this, is to actually have a good, strong brand or marketing aspect to your business. In today's day and age with social media, you have all of the social media here, the Facebooks, the Instagrams, the Snapchats, the YouTubes. If you're watching this, it's on YouTube most likely. All of these social media that can help you reach the people who are interested in a topic or problem that you are solving or you want to solve. So actually having a strong social media presence or having people who know you and know you for what you do is very important, or a very good way of sourcing potential clients for your business. Now, when we say what do you have to work with, that could potentially go into, okay, maybe you already have some social media that are personal, but you have a certain amount of people there to begin with. So let's suppose that you have a Facebook with the maximum amount of friends for a personal account, not a business account, but for a personal account. And that maximum currently is 5,000 people. So let's say that, okay, you have 5,000 people to work with. Maybe you also have an Instagram, whatever. But let's say for this example that we start with Facebook. Okay, so you let everyone know that you have a business, and you are on the daily, you're letting them know that, hey, like, we help people with this, XYZ. Maybe that's not the best way to go about it, and we can go into that in another video. But let's say that people get to know that you have a business. On average, when you set something on Facebook or any other social media, even if you have a following, not every follower is gonna see what you're posting, which means that let's say that you get an incredibly high 50% or half of the people who are following you or are friends with you manage to see that you actually have that business, that is incredibly high. It could be much less. It could be 10%, 20% who actually get to see that, right? So let's say out of those 5,000, you have 2,500, or to simplify, let's say you have 2,000 people who actually know that you have that kind of business, all right? Now, from those who know that you have the business, how many will actually need it? Even if they need it, how many of them will actually go and make business with you? That number goes dramatically lower because it's a personal account, not necessarily followers who are following you because you know how to solve that particular problem. Does that make sense? Just to give you an example, if you had 2,000 followers who see that you have that kind of business and they are all interested in that kind of business, let's say that you convert 1% of them. That is what? 10% is 200, 1% is 20 people. Think to yourself, out of those 5,000 people that I had initially, and then those 2,000 who are actually interested in it and are following me because I solved this problem, I only converted 20 people. Out of those 20 people, are they enough to give you the kind of lifestyle that you're looking for? Are they enough to produce the kind of money that you're thinking for, that you want? If you don't think about it this way, you're just going blind. You don't know what's your target, how many customers do you need, how many followers do you need to get on the different social media so that you can get a conversion that makes sense. Now, 1% might be low conversion. Some people might say, hey, we want 3 to 5. Yes, it also depends on the kind of following you have, but still, you gotta think about it that way. More than the actual numbers, it's about the thinking process that I want you guys to go through so that you think, oh my God, like my social media is like, I don't know, I have less than 1,000 on Facebook, I have like maybe 2,000 on Instagram. That'll give you an idea of what you have to work with at the beginning. And at the beginning, maybe you're not about selling them right away. Maybe you are about building a bigger audience, and that's perfectly fine as well. But that gives you an idea of how much harder it'll be to actually get a lot of followers or a lot of potential customers to your business. And finally, step number 5, and it has to do with just start the business on the side. If you already have a job or you're a student or whatever it is that you're doing, the best way to figure out if having a business is for you, instead of taking the whole leap right away, if you're too scared, just start it on the side. Like we mentioned before, the first thing that you have to solve is where are you going to get your customers from? It depends on the business model. There are many types of businesses out there, but if it's an online business or something that has to do with that, again, you can use social media, and if not, you can use other channels. Maybe if you are someone who's more senior, you can potentially tap into your network of people, and if you're building a business that has to do with the job that you've had previously, you already have a network of people you can pull from, relationships that you can use in order to fast track your business into getting customers or getting a partnership that's going to be key for that. I've seen that oftentimes before. Even if you are in a family business, you can potentially use that and leverage the power that family business already has into building another one. That's another possibility. But at the end of the day, what you want to do is you want to start doing it and see, okay, does this feel like it's for me? I've seen people who started businesses on the side, many people actually, what we call moonlighting, and that's how they actually managed to get to where they could actually quit their jobs because they really enjoy doing their business. And I've seen people who started a business and then they say, oh my God, like I don't actually like it. I think I was more bought into the glamour of being an entrepreneur, a business owner, but really it's much harder than it sounds, because at the end of the day, you have to do everything. You have to look for the revenue, the customers, make sure that you are able to deliver the product, fulfill the orders, everything from marketing, sales, fulfillment, operations, finance, and the list goes on and on. So it is a difficult thing. Now, if you're only putting part-time effort into it, it might not grow as quickly, but you'll get an idea for the kind of effort that's required to gain some traction in it. And if you spend, I don't know, a couple months, a year, and you gain no traction at it, and you feel like you're doing everything right, then maybe that will give you an idea of like, okay, maybe I need to change things up, or I really don't feel like this is for me. And that's the important part here, because the trial of fire, again, is doing something by yourself so that you can figure out if that is actually for you. But before you go, remember to smash that like button and subscribe to this channel while hitting the notification bell so you know whenever a new video comes out. So now you know the 5 powerful steps to figure out if you can actually start a business and enjoy it.